Thank you. Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business. Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business. Good evening, Palm Bay, and welcome to Palm Bay Live. And with me tonight, I have Mr. Kenny Johnson, Deputy Mayor Kenny Johnson. How are you doing, sir?
Good, good. How are you doing, sir?
Great, great. You're coming in loud and clear.
Good, good.
We're a little bit behind. That's okay. We had to deal with some technical issues behind the scenes, and we got that sorted out. And you sounded really, really good. And
Thank you.
sir, and without further ado, we're going to get into this interview. I didn't play the long intros tonight because we're already behind. So I want to make sure folks are bright-eyed and all that good stuff for tomorrow morning when they go off to work, and don't want to keep them along on the platform. And so I'm asking everyone here to please like and share the live. Please like and share the live, and so your neighbors can know that we're interviewing Mr. Johnson tonight. Please like and share the live. And again, you can drop your comments, your questions inside the chat, and then we will be able to pose them to Mr. Johnson as we go through this interview. Um, Tomorrow night will be our debates. And so tomorrow night we'll start around 7 p.m. We have some early programming that we'll be doing at 7 p.m. and then right to 8 p.m. for the debate. And Mr. David Jones is going to be our moderator for the debates. Please like and share the live. Please like and share the live so we can get this word out that we're interviewing Mr. Johnson tonight. So let's go right into it, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson was born and raised in Melbourne, Florida. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And he's a graduate from Bayside High School.
Yes,
And
sir.
went on to play collegiate football with a full athletic scholarship at Charleston Southern University.
Yes,
If
sir.
I'm right. And while there, he earned his bachelor's degree in criminal justice and pledged Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Yep. Okay. So he returned to Brevard County, where he worked as a juvenile case manager and juvenile detention officer, teacher, coach, mentor, and personal trainer. And in 2016, he started his own small business called Top Notch Training of Brevard Incorporated, and where he's training folks on many things such as fitness, education, nutrition, and safe action. His motto comes from Frederick Douglass: "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." And since 2013, Kenny has been dedicating his time and his efforts to mentor and educate the youth of our community through self-organized mentor programs at schools, his place of business, and other community events. Do I have it right, sir?
You have it right. Thank you.
Okay, great.
I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And so let's get it started. You describe yourself as an army brat, Kenny, but you lived most of your life. Where you lived most of your life, how did your father's service impact you and your decision to become a public servant?
So, like you said earlier, I was born here, Melbourne, Florida, but immediately after being born, we moved and we lived in Panama. No, not Panama City, Florida, but Panama, the country, as well as Georgia, Texas, Korea, North Carolina, Mississippi, all different areas of the country and other nations. Mm-hmm. So I think that it gave me diversity and understanding different communities and different cultures and how they move. And then once he retired back in 2002 and came back, 2003, and we came back here to Brevard County, it was where I was able to instill a lot of what I learned in other areas into my own community here.
Okay, great. You're not just a political competitor. You played football in college, as we described earlier. How did that experience impact you?
So that experience helped me in regards to discipline and leadership. Upon going to college, I was there for 4 years, and I started for 3 years as a cornerback and punt return. So upon there, I had to learn, extreme discipline. When your coach told you to be at practice at 5 a.m., that didn't mean 5:05. That meant you were there at 5 a.m., actually early. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you got some bigger issues. So teaching me the leadership and discipline and perseverance, even when things might not be going your way, to persevere and see it through. These are a lot of the things I learned through my years in college, from the football aspect as well as my fraternity.
Okay. So tell us what you do today aside from the elected office and top-notch training. What else do you do?
All right. So beside deputy mayor and my business, I'm also a full-time father. I have a son who's 3 years old, Ezra. And, they say terrible twos, but they didn't warn me about the 3-year-olds. 3-year-olds is a whole nother beast, but he's a blessing. He's a blessing. So I'm a full-time father, and still I make sure I find time to volunteer, whether it's at my church, Truth Revealed International Ministries, or other nonprofit organizations like the Evans Center, Marine Resource Council, Children's Hunger Project. I don't believe in downtime. There's no such thing as downtime when it comes to me, Kenny Johnson, because anytime I have time to serve, I want to make sure I'm putting that to use, because you can get a lot of things back. You can get your money back. Mm-hmm. You can get a house or car back, but you can't get time back. So while I'm on this earth, I want to make sure I'm using my time to the best of my ability to help others.
Awesome. So why do you think you deserve another term, Kenny?
I I believe, in regards to elected officials, I think your track record should speak for itself. And upon being in office, I believe my 4 years have shown that I've taken action and gotten results, whether it's, putting money aside for the road maintenance or creating a road maintenance policy. Updating the comprehensive plan that hadn't been updated in 20 years. I was a lone councilman who brought that to light, that needed to be updated. Body cameras, helping out the elderly in regards to shutters. This is something I was doing before I was on council. Career and technical programs, partnering with Brevard Public Schools to make sure our youth have somewhere they can work, live, and play in Palm Bay. The Veterans Day Parade, that's something that wasn't brought up until I was on council. So a lot of these things were brought up in my tenure, and some of them we're still trying to see through, like the road paving program. We're about 37% done. So I want to make sure that's something that is completed and completed right in regards to stormwater infrastructure, as well as the roads, making sure we get adequate amount of police and fire. Yes, we've given them a good bonus and an increase in salary, but we want to make sure we improve upon there so we can get those response times down. And back to the comprehensive plan, it's going to be completed. This whole process started in 2018, but it's going to be completed February 2022. So it's been a long 3 years from when I first brought it up. But even upon that completion, that's when the hard work really begins in regards to attracting commercial businesses to these areas that we've zoned commercial, light industrial, heavy industrial, multifamily, where it's supposed to be. So these are things I want to make sure I see through. And then once I'm done with these next 4 years, hand the baton to somebody else who wants to continue to move Palm Bay forward.
Please like and share the live, folks. We need more viewers than this. We had quite a few viewers last night. We want to make sure that we get the word out about Mr. Johnson's candidacy, and that you if you have questions for him, you can pose it right now. Start posing your question inside the chat, and I'll be able to bring them up on screen, and he'll be able to answer them. All right, Mr. Johnson, let's go forward and ask you some questions on the local economy. So, as you know, right now, we're coming out of COVID. A lot of employers have been short-staffed, can't fill vacancies, etc. Palm Bay, our city, being one of them. So, dealing with Palm Bay, our city itself, what do you think needs to be done in order to retain and attract a strong, viable workforce in the city of Palm Bay?
So there's multiple things to that. So the first thing that doesn't require any money is morale. One thing I pride myself on doing is whenever I'm at City Hall each week, I'm making sure I visit the different departments and see how things are going. Like, hey, I meet with from department heads down to entry-level workers, just trying to have conversations and make sure everybody's doing well. Some are having great days, some not so great days, and then understand the why behind it. So that way the dialogue can be had and you can break the ice and break the barriers down. So that way we can have better morale. Aside from that is salaries. The salaries of Palm Bay have been outdated for years. And it's not just Palm Bay, it's several other areas. I've talked to council members from all over the state of Florida, and they're having issues with keeping, local government employees who are going to the private sector where they can telework and work from home and make more money. So you're going against that as well. But I'm happy to announce that, with this upcoming budget, we're improving the salaries for all of our employees. So that's definitely going to help with retention and boosting that morale as well. So that way they know that they're wanted and they're appreciated, because yes, we're doing work for our citizens, but these workers, a lot of them live in Palm Bay as well too. So they're citizens too. But at the same token, we can't serve our citizens if we don't have employees to serve our citizens. So
and if they don't have a good place to live, that's going to be another problem too, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need to make sure, and we're going to get to housing in a second, but I just want to add that in there. So now that we got that, we cover that. So how can we make sure Palm Bay itself now is more attractive to members of the workforce? Because that's another problem that we're facing. We didn't have the kind of nightlife that Melbourne, the city, has, etc. We don't have a downtown Palm Bay. What are we going to do to make sure we bridge that gap to ensure that the residents of Palm Bay have a place to go and play? Not just go home after work, but at the end of the shift, they can go, go get a drink somewhere, or kind of loose, if you got me. You get what I'm saying?
You're talking to a millennial, so I 100% agree. When I graduated from college in 2012 and came back here in 2013, a lot of my friends and colleagues who are my age were like, "You went back?" I'm like, "Yeah, I went back." They're like, "But there's nothing to do." So I understand exactly where you're coming from, and to that point, that's where I think the updating of the comprehensive plan, and right now we're in the works of establishing a downtown Palm Bay in the Bayfront redevelopment area off of US 1. That's big, because if you build it, they will come. So if we establish a downtown Palm Bay area with, restaurants and nightlife and amphitheaters or whatnot, that'll attract, the newcomers. And even if people work up towards the space industry, they'll still want to come down to Palm Bay or live in Palm Bay, where they can enjoy the nightlife here. So it's several things that we're trying to work on and work towards, but I'm probably one of the biggest proponents for it. Even the compound, whether we make it light industrial or turn that into an ATV park, these are things, innovative ideas that we can utilize towards moving our city forward.
So I'm going to challenge you on the BRA, because this is something I've been hearing for years since I moved here. I moved to Palm Bay in when was it? 2009, somewhere around there, and I've always been listening to the city council meeting, not playing an active part. When I started, my active part was when you were campaigning. I was campaigning for the roads. I was campaigning for the roads back then, and but the thing that I always hear about is that, oh yeah, the BRA, we're going to be doing something. We're going to bring it downtown, and not until now I don't see it, Kenny. So what is happening behind the scenes? Why is it taking so long for this thing to come to fruition?
So there are a lot of properties along the BCRA corridor, along US 1, and we have applicants and people who are buying up these properties. But upon buying up the properties, you have to go through the application process. And after the application process, you have to go before the P&Z and the BCRA, and then the Palm Bay City Council for rezoning and land use. So it's a timely process. And there's so many properties there. And what I'm seeing and what we're seeing a trend is the applicants are buying up several different properties because they just want to make it one big time move in regards to Palm Bay and establishing jobs and opportunities in that area. So it's not like where you see spot zoning, where somebody wants to buy here and put up apartments, somebody wants to buy here and put up condos. What we're seeing and what we're noticing with the application process is they're buying up a lot of the land to do one big thing for Palm Bay.
Okay, so is anybody advocating on behalf of our city of Palm Bay to actually talk to these businesses to tell them what type of environment we're trying to create? I mean,
I know myself, and actually all of council on the dais have made it clear for those who are coming before council, wanting to do something along the BCRA area, what we're looking for. We're like, we're looking to make this a crown jewel, one of the crown jewels of Palm Bay, in creating a downtown Palm Bay. The mayor said it. I've said it. Councilman Felix, Councilman Filiberto, as well as Councilman Foster. So it's been made loud and clear to anybody looking to develop in that area what we're looking for.
Okay. All right, sir. Moving along. Let's talk about affordable housing. Affordable housing is a problem throughout the state. How do we solve for it in Palm Bay? And what are your concrete plans to address the topic?
Thank you. So there's only so much we can do. When it comes to rent control, that's something that the state has power over. We do not have power over. But one thing that I initiated was voluntary inclusionary housing. So originally I was looking at mandatory inclusionary housing back in 2019, but the state legislators passed the law where if you mandate affordable housing for developers, the city has to offset the costs. So that went out the window. So in 2019, I had to scrap that. So I had to, use some ingenuity and find another solution. So that's when I looked into voluntary inclusionary housing, which we just passed a few months ago. And voluntary inclusionary housing, what it does is provides incentives such as density bonuses, setbacks, increases, things of that nature. So that way you can get an increased amount for affordable housing projects. So that way it helps the applicant, but it also helps the residents and the community in regards to creating affordable housing units. So that's something the city was able to do. Another thing is supply and demand, and we're in a catch-22 in Palm Bay because we're already growing so fast, but, apartment complexes are able to charge whatever astronomical rate they want to because there's a limited amount of apartments available. Same with houses that are being rented. There's only so many houses that are available. So they know they can charge $2,000, $2,200, however much for rent. So that's where we got to make sure, okay, we do need apartments, but we need to make sure we put them in the right area, or we need condominiums or houses, but we need to put them in the right area where it's not going to be detrimental to the current community within our city.
Okay. Another problem I'm seeing, Kenny, on affordable housing is that some of these rents that are out there, they're like the price, they're like the monthly cost of a mortgage. I mean, they're like
more,
$2,000,
not more,
if not more. So, I mean, what are we telling these builders when they're coming in? Like, listen, what is your concept of affordable housing? I mean, are we somebody there along the line to say, listen, I want you to make sure you have so many units that are XYZ amount of rent per month? Is somebody there telling them that, pushing for that?
So between staff and ourselves, we're pushing for it. But one thing I am hearing, especially from the residents, is that we don't want Section 8 housing. That's something that I'm hearing. But a compromise that I found that people are okay with is like workforce housing, because that shows that that the resident of that household is working. They're not just living off of food stamps or unemployment, but they're actually working, but they still need somewhere sustainable to raise a family. So,
okay. So your opponent criticized the council's plan to increase property taxes from 3%. And his argument is that it negatively impacts affordable housing that we're talking about. So can you explain your position on this?
So I opposed increasing, and you can pull the minutes. It was back in June. I didn't think now was the time. I said we need to stay within the 3% cap, especially given what's been going on within our nation within this year and last year. But council wanted to go forward, and I understand why they wanted to go forward, because they wanted to put that money to use in regards to our first responders, which I wholeheartedly agree with that we need to support that. But given what's going on within our nation, I did not think this was the time to do that. But to that point, when you're looking at the increase for people's property taxes, if they look at the bill, I know for mine it was probably a little more than a $50 increase. I have to check again because it comes out of my escrow, but it was a little more than a $50 increase compared to last year. So when we talk about affordable housing, people are seeing spikes a lot higher than that when it comes to rent. That's one reason why I personally try to push and encourage home ownership for a lot of millennials and young people, because that mortgage rate doesn't change for you, Kevin. and it doesn't change for me. We're locked in at that rate unless we refinance from 30 year to 15 years. But I understand his point but I don't agree regarding, that's what's going to be causing affordable housing issues.
Do you agree with the Palm Bay's decision, or you're sitting to approve a temporary moratorium on new residential entitlements?
Without a doubt, I was the one who spearheaded it. So because what I was noticing, so like I said, I pushed for the updated comprehensive plan, and as the update was coming, I'm noticing an influx of applicants, rezoning, land use. I honestly wish I would have probably pushed for it a little sooner than I did. But I was noticing all these applications are trying to hurry up and spot zone here, rezone there. When I'm like, you know what? We have an opportunity to get it all right. Let's update the whole comprehensive plan so everybody understands, the community, the council, our staff, and applicants, what we're looking for within our city. So all I was asking for is a 6-month pause. Let us wait for the comprehensive plan to be fully updated, and then we can move together forward.
Okay. All right, sir. Community, don't forget, if you have a question for Mr. Johnson, you can post it in the chat and I bring it on the screen so he can answer it. But I don't see any questions. I'll move forward with my questions. Okay. So you recently supported a $5 million in grants that was split up in different entities. Are you in agreement with how that happened, or is there anything else that you would have changed in that process, etc.?
So I was in agreement with everything but one decision. There was money awarded to one organization, which I serve on the Community Development Advisory Board, and that organization wasn't able to expend the funds in a timely manner. So I felt, and we had to give them an extension. So I felt to do the same here. I was like, there are better candidates or better applicants that these funds can be suited for. So other than that, I supported the moving forward in regards to initiatives for the $5 million of the ARPA funds. And I know it's going to make a big positive impact for our community.
Okay, sir. Now we're going to talk about your favorite person, State Representative Randy Fine. I have some questions in regards to that. Well, about two questions. It's been well documented in the public sphere that you have a feud with this guy, or he has a feud with you. I don't know which way it goes. In July, it was reported that the police were involved after you vaguely threatened him, allegedly, at an event in Melbourne. Allegedly. How does this incident speak to your character and your leadership?
So I actually walked up to State Representative Randy Fine and asked him if he wanted to dance.
No, that was the question. And that's the story. He's sticking by it.
No. I asked him. I walked. So since you asked the question, I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, you and I must have an issue." And then what he said to me was, "What's up, rapist?" That's what he said to me. And there was witnesses around. And I just stood there because I honestly couldn't believe he said it. But anyways, regardless, I don't have a feud with State Representative Fine. I never have. Like I've said before, he's not even on my radar. I'm focused on local government. I've been trying to work with him for the past 3 years, and I will continue to do so. Past 4 years, and I'll continue doing so if we can be adults and move forward together and doing what's best for our community.
So there was a mailer that was sent out in the summertime. You're aware of that mailer?
Oh, I definitely am.
And so what are your thoughts on that mailer? And it's allegedly stated that Mr. Fine, Representative Fine, is behind it. So your thoughts?
I have nothing to even comment on that. I've been dealing with slander from my first election, which from 2018, and I'll deal with it even after this. But while others are focused on attacking me and trying to bring me down, I'm focused on continue this campaign and working for the city of Palm Bay. So I really have nothing to say to any of that. People are going to attack anyways. Kevin, I'm sure you get attacked sometimes as well. And you're trying to do the right thing by providing information for the community, which you don't have to. You have a family to raise, just like I have a family to raise. But when you're trying to serve and do the right thing, attacks and obstacles are expected to come your way. So I'm not worried by any of it. So, but I actually appreciate the support that I've had through all the attacks and everything that's happened. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so last question to Mr. Fine. So recently, in a more recent incident, there has been a post that was made by your opponent, allegedly, in a past situation on his Facebook page, and you're accused by Representative Fine of sabotaging your opponent by falsifying, or what's the word I'm looking for? Making up stuff.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yep.
And so apparently, it is stated allegedly that Nathan possibly made a racist remark. And I asked Nathan about this last night, and he opined on it. And he stated he didn't do any such thing. And so we cleared that air up based on his comments. But now I want your take, because Mr. Fine stated that you were behind, or you or your campaign was behind this.
It definitely didn't come from the Kenny Johnson campaign. I've been running, like, I know a lot of people talk about Kenny Johnson's cousin or campaign manager. Yes, he's my cousin, but I've been running this campaign myself this go around, and I've been able to do a great job, I think. But I don't need time. I don't have time for slander. Me and Mr. White have had several conversations, outside of the council meetings or things of that nature. And I admire Mr. White for running, just like anybody else, just like, Councilman Filiberto ran and several others ran. But I still feel that I'm the best for the job in moving the city forward in the direction it needs to be.
Okay. Let's take a question. There's one question from the public. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the screen. And let me make sure I can read it, because it looks really fine. It says, when are we going to widen the roads around Palm Bay to relieve the traffic?
Great question. All right, I can jump right into that. So the first road we're working on widening is Malabar Road from Minton all the way down to Heritage High School. We secured funding from what is it called? The Space Coast TPO, the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization. And we have funding from our TIF, traffic impact fees. But now I myself have written a letter to the federal FDOT, federal government, in regards to securing funding for them for the widening of the road. So right now we're just waiting on additional funding, and then that road will be widened. We've had letters of support written from Commissioner Zonka and Brevard County Commissioners, as well as the Space Coast TPO. So we're pretty confident, as well as Congressman Posey. So we're pretty confident we're going to get that funding. It's just more of a matter of when. But once we get that funding, we can get started with the widening of the roads. Other than that, the widening of Babcock is the next one, but that's going to be a little more long term. So for widening of Babcock, we're looking at 2024 time frame. So that's going to be a little longer, because that's a county, partially city and partially county road. So we got to work in unison with them to widen that road.
Okay. Here's another question that I overlooked. It says, Mr. Johnson, what is being done to improve our police department, given the department is 241 out of 246 in the state?
Great question. So that's where it comes to, is the catch-22 in regards to the 4-1 vote for council in regards to the millage rate, because the money that they're putting towards is going to be towards police and fire, police vehicles, additional police officers. So we're looking to increase the amount of police officers we have. That way the ratio of residents to police evens out where it needs to be. And it's going to take years, because we're playing catch up from decades of, being down this much. So it's going to take years. And we've been adding police officers every year, but we need to add more. And we can do that this year as well as next year with the rate we're going.
But are we losing police officers to other agencies as well?
We were. Yes, we were. But upon 2020, Chief Nelson Moya came to city council with this issue, saying, hey, I hate to come before you like this, but we need to increase the pay of our officers, because I'm losing officers to the sheriff's office, to Indian River, to Orange County. So we gave the pay increase. It was a 4-1 vote. And since then, we had officers that came back. We had officers that came back from Brevard County Sheriff's Office that I know personally. We have officers that not only came back, but transferred. They never were with Palm Bay, and they transferred over because they saw the initiative we were taking and taking care of our officers and our law enforcement. And aside from that, something I'm doing, and I've been talking to Chief about, the same way Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, they're in our high schools recruiting, our law enforcement can do the same thing, both fire and police. You know, get these young men and women early so that way they know they can have a career in it, and they too can be the next police chief or deputy chief of Palm Bay.
So how do we improve our response time, Kenny? Because that's another thing that I see the citizens complaining about on social media, even at City Hall during the City Hall meetings. So how do we increase our response time?
We have to get more one. So there's so many things to it because I observed the whole city. One, we have to get more officers on the road. Mm-hmm. But two, and this is something I've learned through my background in criminal justice with my degree, and talking to our law enforcement, it's the same all across the nation. A lot of 911 calls are calls that can be non-emergency calls, meaning these are calls that aren't, you know, as important, that can be resolved through non-emergency, that are taking away law enforcement officers from more pressing matters. So that's another thing that the earnings can be on us as citizens, understanding what's a real life emergency and what is something that can be resolved non-emergency. So that's two. Three, we got to slow down. I'm watching people come off of 95 and still speed on the Malabar like they're still on 95. And I'm seeing an increase in traffic fatalities as well as traffic accidents because we as citizens aren't holding ourselves accountable for how we drive and how we operate a motor vehicle.
Okay. All right. The last comment I see here is just commenting saying that Mr. Johnson is doing a great job and thank you for your community service. Again, community, if you have a question for Mr. Johnson, you can post them in a chat and I'll bring them up on the screen. And we're going to keep it going. So we pretty much on the lines of transportation, we're talking about transportation just now. As you know, the road bond being passed. Are you satisfied with the progress as it's going right now? Is there anything that you see that could be improved? There's rumors that we are going to run out of money and not all the roads are going to be covered. Is that true?
So right now we're at about 37%. We've done about 287 miles of road out of the 791. And to that point, yes, there is concerns that we're going to run out because of the inflation and the increase on all the products. You know, the estimates and the $150 million that was quoted back in 2018 was based off 2018 numbers. All right. So based off those numbers, that 150 was looking to cover everybody. But now here we are 2022. And with the way the economy and everything's going, a lot of those numbers have increased and inflated. So now we're looking like, okay, we might have to look into the undesignated fund balance, or we might have to cut here or there to make sure we can get the road paved, all the roads paved, because I refuse to leave office, you know, hopefully in 2026 with not all the roads paved, because, you know, it got voted in the same time I got voted in. So I feel like we're companions and we didn't meet it. We need to make sure all the roads are completed. So to that point, that's why it was also very important that I got that road maintenance policy passed. So that way we don't go back to this situation ever again. Even for councils 10, 15, 20 years down the road, there's a mechanism in place to make sure the roads will never be as deficient as they have been in the past.
How much is in the reserve right now?
For the undesignated fund balance?
Yeah.
Estimated 20 million. Some of it's already dead, set aside for different projects, capital and projects, but about 20 million.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Okay, wait, what's going on? Now the questions are populating. I'm not sure what was happening, but maybe there was something going on with the stream, but I see some questions coming in. All right, let's see this question. Mr. Johnson, my major concern for you and others, are you going to prioritize the adolescents, homeless and mental health issues surrounding the city?
Okay, so to that point, local government has to make sure, you know, as council members, we're here to operate in the ordinances and laws and passing of laws and whatnot. But outside of, just being a councilman, I volunteer my time working with different organizations. But to her point, to Mrs. Miss Senior, to Mrs. Senior's point, that's where the allocation of the $5 million ARPA funding we allocated towards different projects, because some of the nonprofits were looking to address mental health and drug abuse to that, for that point. So while local government of the city of Palm Bay is not personally handling mental health issues, we're working with nonprofits that are.
Okay. All right. This person has a comment that says, "Stop changing the zoning laws. They're put there for a reason. For example, putting apartments by Emerson Road behind the Phase 1 complex where Aldi's will be built near Walmart and Malwa Road is not good for traffic on Emerson."
So Miss Dawn is referring. So I think it's tonight. Actually, yeah, tonight, the planning and zoning will be voting on a zoning change for apartments, which will be over by Centerpoint Church area, which is what she's referring to. So the planning and zoning is listening to that probably right now if they haven't already, and then that's going to come before council next month.
Okay, and that is being built by Centerpoint Church, right?
I believe so.
Okay, all right. Is the resource center that you voted on still going to happen on Palm Bay Road?
Yes, for the Source Ministries, yes.
Okay.
So that's Tony Zorbaugh. They do the shelter, the bus shelter that houses the homeless, and they work with getting them the help they need, whether it's mental health or, they teach them culinary skills so that way they can get jobs and help with transportation. So they've done a great job down in Vero. I've talked to a lot of the Vero Beach council members. So they're looking to replicate the same thing here in Palm Bay, which is where Tony Zorbaugh resides here in Palm Bay. So he's looking to replicate what he's done in Vero and has been successful with here in Palm Bay.
Okay, let's take another one. Our response time decreased tremendously after dispatch was given to the county in 2017. When does the city get our dispatch back in a city with people familiar with the community? Is that true? It's been done by the county? I wasn't aware of
that. So there's been back and forth between dispatch between both police and fire with our county, as well as with our what's the acronym? BCFR. Yeah, BCFR. So I have to follow up. I'll have to check with our police chief and fire chief to see what the update is on that. But yeah, there has been issues because of not enough people, not enough dispatchers. So we'll have to follow up. But I do think with the increase in salaries for our dispatchers, that'll attract more to come back to the city of Palm Bay.
Okay. All right. Do you have knowledge of crime rates? If so, how have they changed at all in the last 2 years?
So when our police chief gave us an update in regards to what's going on in the city of Palm Bay last, the main thing that we saw was an increase in domestic violence, especially during the COVID time period when people were, stuck at home. We've seen an increase in that, increase in traffic fatalities. Not so much. It's been pretty much the same in regards to just regular murders. Those have remained low. And the murders that we do see typically in Palm Bay are drug related. And the ones that are drug related tend to be from out of town or people that are stopping in Palm Bay.
Okay. All right. Coming close to the end here, Kenny. Let's quickly ask you this. There's always opposition to current council members raising their own pay. So what is your reason behind supporting this?
So when I supported putting it on the ballot, it wasn't saying I support one way or another. Just like with the special election, it's for the voters to decide, one way or another. I ran for city council knowing the pay that was going to be allocated to me, which was approximately $11,000 at the time. And I'm running for city council the same way. If the voters decide, hey, we want to give them a bump up to about 22,000, that's fine. If they don't, I'm still going to serve. That's not going to change the level of service I bring to the city.
Okay. All right. We're going to go through the amendments, the charter amendments, and quickly. These are the last set of questions I have for you. You're going to tell me yes or no, nay, if you support them one way or the other. Where do you stand on referendum number 2? This amendment revolves the governing, the employment of a current and former elected officials by the city.
Yes.
You're for it. Okay.
Yep.
Where do you stand on referendum number 3 that gives the city council the power to fill vacancies on the city council?
So for that one, I was either way. Just like was before, I was originally looking to appoint, but upon hearing from the community, they wanted to have the special election. So with that one, I'm either way. If the city feels, hey, we want our council, we've elected you, and we want our council to appoint for us. All right, cool. If they say no, leave it in our hands. I'm fine either way on that.
Okay. Where do you stand on referendum number 4? This one involves the governance of the city's council regular meeting.
Are you referring to the one where the month of June is a month off?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just because it's something similar to many other cities within Brevard County, as well as Brevard County Commission itself. And it's more so, I know a lot of people will say that it's a break for city council. It's a break for this. It's actually more so a break for staff. We're talking about, 2 meetings in a month where staff isn't going to have to prep and get ready for, zoning change laws and land use changes, things of that nature. They can focus on other stuff. So it's more so a break. It's more so a break for staff than anybody. So I definitely support that.
Okay. Referendum number 5. This has to do the repeal of ordinances by citizens petition. The proposal is to go from 5% to 10% in order to do a repeal.
I think that's fair.
Okay. Where do you stand on referendum number 6? This relates to pronouns, where you can refer to the city manager.
Yes. So that's and I've seen conversations on this as well. Within the past 4 years, we've had a female city manager, whether it's been Lisa Morrell or Suzanne Sherman. So that's just a clarification. I've seen some comments alluding to, where we are in this day and age of yeah. So, but what all it is clarification, showing that a woman can be a city manager, as we've seen over the past 4 years.
Okay. Number 7. Charter amendment related to determine whether the winner of a council member election in the event of a tie. This would call for a runoff election.
Yes.
Okay. And number 8, this has to do with the ad valorem taxes. So this is related to limitations of city's ability to increase ad valorem taxes.
So this goes with the 3% cap. For this one, I personally am voting to remove the 3% cap because there are already measures levied by the state to make sure that you can't go too high in one given vote, and you can't exceed over a certain amount of years. So they're already, we're the only city that has it, and I feel like it's actually slowed us down in regards to being 241 out of 246 for our law enforcement. And providing adequate funding for our police officers and for our firefighters and addressing our roads. The issue where it lies is, I think the 3% cap was voted in back in 2016, because at that time, they didn't see that dollars and monies were being spent appropriately amongst the city. So I see us in a much better state where, if the cap were to be removed, then you'll see an increase in the amount of police officers we have, an increase in the amount of fire stations we have. But that's something for the voters to decide whether or not they trust this city council or they feel that we're going to do what we're supposed to do. And I feel that we've done that.
Okay.
With what we have.
Okay. All right, Kenny. So tomorrow night will be our debates. There are debates, audience. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. There will be an early show starting around 7 p.m. and leading up to the debates. I invite you to have watch parties at your home. invite your neighbors over. Sit down, relax, get some popcorn, whatever it is, and let's have a healthy debate about and have a conversation about the things that affects us in the city of Palm Bay. So please, include your neighbors, include your friends in this debate, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Start time is 8 p.m. for the debates, and we'll have an early show starting around 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So look out for that. And again, invite your neighbors. Please tell your friends and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night for our final debate surrounding the issues that affects us. Thank you for joining me, Kenny, and thank you for joining me, audience. I wish to see more people participate in these live sessions, and I do my best to try to get the word out, but I'm still being lackluster in trying to get the audience participation. I'm not sure where I'm falling short with that. I am trying my best. I'm only one person, but I'm trying to do a community service here, and I hope to see more people join us tomorrow night. So let's have at least 100+ people join us tomorrow night. Amen. So we can get the word out. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.